Mason had always been the responsible one. At 32, he prided himself on his stable job, his modest apartment, and his ability to live within his means. He was a man of quiet determination, someone who valued independence but never hesitated to lend a hand when needed, especially to family. But for Mason, being helpful wasn't just about kindness. It had become an unspoken obligation. Over the years, his family had come to see him as their personal ATM, draining his resources without so much as a thank you or acknowledgement that they were crossing boundaries. It started innocently enough. Sarah, his older sister, would forget to pay her phone bill and Mason would cover it. Seth, his brother-in-law, lost his job once and asked for a little something to tide them over, a request that turned into months of financial support. Then there were the bigger things: emergency car repairs, medical bills, even rent payments during tough months. Each time they reassured him it was temporary, that they'd pay him back eventually. But eventually never came. Instead, they justified themselves with phrases like, "You don't need this money as much as we do," or worse, "That's what you're here for." The truth stung more than Mason cared to admit. His parents weren't any better. When his father's car broke down last year, they didn't ask, they assumed. And when Mason hesitated, however briefly, his mother would chime in with honeyed words laced with guilt. "You're lucky, Mason. You've got no struggles. God gave you ease so you could share it." Share it? It sounded noble until you realized what she really meant. Give us your paycheck. Still, Mason swallowed his resentment. He told himself it was easier to comply than to fight. After all, wasn't that what family did? They supported each other through thick and thin. Or at least, that's what he kept telling himself, until the day everything unraveled. It happened after a family reunion, one of those rare occasions where everyone gathered under the same roof. The evening had been filled with laughter, familiar bickering, and the clinking of wine glasses. Mason left early, citing work commitments the next morning. It wasn't until he checked his banking app later that night that the blood drained from his face. His account balance read $87. $87. Yesterday he'd had over $14,000. $14,000 gone in the blink of an eye. His heart raced as he refreshed the app 3 times, hoping it was some kind of glitch. But the numbers remained unchanged. Panic clawed at his chest as he scrolled through recent transactions. Rent payments, grocery bills, credit card charges, all made by someone else. Someone who clearly knew his login credentials. The realization hit him like a freight train. Sarah and Seth. They must have accessed his information from the shared family computer. Rage bubbled inside him, hot and acidic, but he forced himself to stay calm. Tomorrow he'd confront them. For now, sleep eluded him as questions swirled in his mind. How could they? Why didn't they ask? Did they think he wouldn't notice? The next day, Mason stormed into their house, his jaw clenched tight. Sarah lounged on the couch, sipping wine as if nothing was wrong. Seth leaned casually against the fridge, beer in hand, wearing that infuriating half-smirk of his. Their nonchalance only fueled Mason's fury. "What the hell is this?" Mason demanded, shoving his phone toward them. The screen displayed his nearly empty account. Sarah glanced at it and laughed. "Oh, relax. It's not like we stole it." "Not like you?" Mason's voice cracked. "You drained my entire account." Seth shrugged, unfazed. "We needed it more than you. Besides, you've paid for stuff before." "What's the difference?" "The difference," Mason spat, "is that I volunteered then. You didn't ask this time, you just took." His mother, knitting quietly in the corner, finally looked up. Her expression softened into something between pity and exasperation. "Sweetheart, you're always so sensitive. You have a good job, no mortgage, no kids. You're fine." "Fine?" Mason echoed, incredulous. "So that justifies stealing from me?" His father muttered something about language but didn't bother looking up from his phone. No one apologized. No one even seemed surprised. As Mason stood there, fists trembling at his sides, a cold realization settled over him. To them he wasn't a son, a brother, or a person. He was a resource, a bottomless well they could draw from whenever it suited them. And in that moment, something inside him snapped. The days following our confrontation were a blur. I didn't return their calls, didn't respond to Sarah's frantic texts begging me to fix this. Fix what? Their greed? Their entitlement? No, I wasn't going to be their cleanup crew anymore. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by printed bank statements, spreadsheets detailing every transaction they'd made using my account. It wasn't just rent or groceries, it was $72 on makeup, $900 on takeout, $2,300 to pay off Seth's car loan. Every penny stolen under the guise of family loyalty. I filed a fraud report with the police that same week. My hands trembled as I hit submit on the online form, but my resolve hardened. For years I had let them treat me like an endless resource, but no more. This wasn't about revenge, it was about justice. For myself, for the person I used to be before they drained not only my bank account but also my spirit. 2 days later, I received confirmation from the Financial Crimes Unit. They would investigate. And then came the moment I knew would change everything. That evening, I walked into my parents' house, Not out of guilt, but because I wanted to see their faces when reality finally crashed down on them. They were sitting around the dining table, plates of half-eaten food scattered across the surface. Mom was laughing softly at something Dad said, while Sarah scrolled through her phone, sipping wine. Seth leaned back in his chair, smirking about some sports game on TV. None of them noticed me standing there, silent, until I cleared my throat. "Well, look who showed up," Sarah said dryly, rolling her eyes. I dropped my bag near the door without a word. "Let's get this over with," I muttered, pulling out a chair and sitting down. "Good," Seth grinned, clearly trying to lighten the mood. "Maybe we can finally stop pretending you were robbed." "I was robbed," I shot back, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. Before anyone could argue further, there was a loud knock, 3 hard, heavy pounds against the door. Everyone froze. "Open up," a voice shouted from outside. Sarah went pale. Seth stood up too quickly, knocking over his chair. Mom gasped and backed away toward the kitchen counter. Dad froze mid-bite, fork suspended in midair. I opened the door. 3 agents stepped inside, their jackets emblazoned with bold letters, Financial Crimes Unit. One carried a clipboard, another held a tablet, and the third surveyed the room like a hawk scanning its prey. "You Mason Carver?" the lead agent asked. "Yes," I replied, stepping aside. "Thank you for your cooperation. I'll leave it to you." Mom covered her mouth with both hands. Sarah collapsed into a chair as if her legs had given out. Seth stared at me, his face twisted in disbelief. "What is this?" Dad snapped, his voice shaking. "This is insane. You want to put your own sister in jail? If she wants to act like a criminal, maybe she should face consequences like one," I said coldly. One of the agents turned to my family. "You are listed as parties of interest in an open case of financial fraud and identity theft." "Identity theft?" Mom cried, tears streaming down her face. "Our son, our own flesh and blood, is doing this." The agent didn't blink. "Family ties don't make illegal activity legal, ma'am." Sarah shrieked. "We didn't steal anything. We had a right. He always helped us, he always gave permission." "Thinking you're entitled to someone's money doesn't make it yours," the agent replied calmly. "Please remain seated." For the first time in my life, they didn't talk over me. They didn't mock me. They didn't laugh. Instead, they sat there, exposed, fragile, and utterly humiliated. Mom turned to me, her voice shaking. "Mason, please. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just desperate. You've always been the strong one, the only one we could count on." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You don't get to cry now." She sobbed uncontrollably, burying her face in her hands. Sarah tried to say something, but no words came out. Seth glared at me, anger burning in his eyes, but even he couldn't deny what was happening. "You want to talk about what family is?" I said, stepping forward. "It's trust. It's respect. It's asking, not assuming. Not stealing. Not laughing while you bleed me dry." They said nothing. I grabbed my bag from the floor and turned to the lead agent. "I'll be outside." And this time they didn't stop me. The first few weeks after cutting ties with my family were strange. It wasn't the kind of freedom you imagine. No fireworks, no grand celebration. Instead, it was quiet. Too quiet. I moved to a new city where no one knew me, changed my phone number, and started over. For the first time in years, there were no surprise visits from Sarah, no guilt-laden calls from Mom asking for just a little help. The silence was deafening at first, but then, it became something else. Peaceful. I threw myself into work. Without the constant drain of supporting my family, I could focus entirely on my career. My boss noticed the change immediately. Gone were the days when I juggled deadlines while secretly transferring money to cover Seth's car payments or Sarah's overdue bills. I was sharper, more present, and less stressed. 3 months after my departure, I received a promotion. It felt surreal, a tangible reward for finally putting myself first. My physical health improved too. I started going to the gym regularly, something I hadn't done since college. Running on the treadmill became my therapy, each step pounding away the weight I'd carried for so long. I even began cooking again, experimenting with recipes I found online. On weekends, I'd sit on my balcony with a cup of coffee, watching the world go by without feeling obligated to fix anyone's problems. But not everything was perfect. Some nights, loneliness crept in like an unwelcome guest. I missed the idea of family, the warmth of shared laughter, the comfort of knowing someone had your back. Yet, I reminded myself that what I missed wasn't real. What I'd lost wasn't a loving family, it was the illusion of one. They never saw me as Mason, their son or brother. To them, I was just a resource, a bottomless well they could draw from whenever it suited them. Letting go of that fantasy hurt, but holding on to it would have destroyed me. One morning, as I sorted through my mail, I found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a check for $1,200 and a handwritten note. Asterisk, Mason, I left him. You were right, I was scared, but watching what you did gave me the courage to walk away too. This is for everything you paid for. Ellie, the tablet, the rent, the clothes. I know Seth never thanked you, but I am. Thank you for being the example I needed. Kelly, asterisk, Kelly. Seth's younger sister. We hadn't spoken in years, yet here she was thanking me, not for the money I'd given her family, but for showing her that escape was possible. I read the note twice, then set it down on my kitchen counter. Tears welled up in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. For the first time, someone in my family saw me, not as a wallet, not as a scapegoat, but as a person. That moment shifted something inside me. I realized that saying no didn't mean I stopped loving them. Love isn't about enabling toxicity, it's about setting boundaries. By walking away, I wasn't abandoning my family, I was teaching them how to treat me. And maybe, just maybe, I was giving them a chance to heal too. Still, the emails and texts kept coming. Dad wrote lengthy letters blaming outside influences for tearing the family apart. Sarah sent desperate messages accusing me of ruining their lives. Even Mom called once, her voice trembling as she begged me to fix this. But I didn't respond. Not because I hated them, but because I finally understood that their happiness wasn't my responsibility. As weeks turned into months, I began to notice subtle changes within myself. I laughed more freely, slept more soundly, and woke up each day without dread weighing me down. I started reconnecting with old friends, people who genuinely cared about me rather than what I could offer them. One evening, I ran into Jen, the cousin who caught up with me outside during that fateful reunion. "Hey," she said, smiling warmly. "How've you been?" "Better," I admitted. "It's different but better." "I heard about everything," she said softly. "Good for you, Mason. Most people never get out." Her words stayed with me long after we parted ways. For the first time, I felt proud of myself, not for achieving some external success but for standing firm, for choosing me. And yet, the silence still whispered sometimes. Late at night, when the world was still, I wondered if I'd made the right choice. Did I push too hard? Could I have handled things differently? But then I remembered the look on Sarah's face when she laughed at my drained account, the way Seth smirked like it was all a joke. No, I thought, I didn't ruin anything. I saved myself. The fallout hit them hard. Harder than I expected, to be honest. Sarah and Seth's initial shock turned into something uglier, desperation masked as blame. They sent emails, texts, even had Dad call me with his usual guilt-tripping monologue. "You've brought shame to this family, Mason." Shame? I almost laughed at the irony. If anything, it was their greed that had shamed us all. Sarah was relentless. Every day, her messages grew more frantic, more accusatory. "You destroyed everything," she wrote one morning. "Seth lost his job because of you. Mom can't stop crying. You think this is fair?" Fair? The word burned in my chest. Did she really have the audacity to ask me about fairness after what they'd done? Then came the phone calls. Sarah called repeatedly, her voice trembling but laced with anger. "Pick up, Mason. This isn't over." But I didn't answer. Not until late one night, when her name flashed across my screen for the 7th time that day. "Mason," she started before I could say anything, "you need to fix this." "Fix what, Sarah?" I asked, my tone icy. "Your lies? Your theft? Or the fact that you treated me like an ATM instead of a human being? You're acting like we stole from you," she snapped, her voice rising. "We used your money to survive. To help Mom and Dad. You were fine before, you never complained." "That's because I didn't know how to say no without feeling guilty," I shot back. "But guess what, Sarah? Now I do." She paused, choking back tears. "You always had so much more than us. Was it really too much to ask for a little help?" "A little help?" My voice cracked under the weight of years of resentment. "Do you even hear yourself? You drained my savings account overnight. You didn't ask, you just took. And now you want me to clean up the mess you made." There was silence on the other end, broken only by her ragged breathing. Finally she whispered, "Please, Mason. Can't you just let it go?" "No," I said firmly. "I'm not letting it go. I didn't ruin anything, Sarah. I just stopped letting you walk all over me." Meanwhile, Kelly's email arrived like a quiet beacon amidst the chaos. Short and simple, yet it carried more weight than any apology from Sarah or Seth ever could. "Mason, I know we haven't spoken in years, but I wanted to say thank you. You were right about everything, the way they treated you, the toxicity. Watching you stand up gave me the courage to leave too. You're brave, Mason. Truly brave." Brave. The word echoed in my mind long after I read it. No one in my family had ever described me that way. Responsible, yes. Reliable, sure. But brave? It felt foreign, almost surreal. Yet, coming from Kelly, it meant something. For once, someone saw me, not as a resource, not as a scapegoat, but as a person who deserved respect. Dad, however, wasn't ready to concede defeat. His emails grew longer, more desperate. He accused me of betrayal, of tearing apart the fabric of our family. "Loyalty means nothing to you anymore," he wrote. "You've humiliated us all." Humiliation. That was rich coming from him. Humiliation was sitting through countless dinners where they justified stealing from me because family comes first. Humiliation was hearing Mom dismiss my concerns with a wave of her hand, saying, "You're fine, Mason. You don't need that money." Even Mom tried reaching out. Her voicemail was soft, pleading. Sweetheart, please. We're losing the house. They're threatening charges. Can't we handle this like a family? Handle it like a family? The very thought made me sick. Their idea of family was taking without asking, using without gratitude, destroying without remorse. One evening, Sarah called again. This time her voice was different, smaller, weaker. Gone was the sharp edge of accusation. Instead, there was only desperation. Mason, I messed up, she admitted, her words trembling. I went too far. I didn't think it would go this far. What did you think would happen, Sarah? I interrupted, my voice cold. Did you think I'd just keep giving forever? I thought, she hesitated, then sighed. I don't know what I thought. But Seth got suspended at work, Mom won't stop crying, Dad won't even speak to me. And you, she trailed off, her voice breaking. You always had the power to ruin everything, and you finally did. I clenched my jaw, fighting back the surge of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Anger, sadness, pity, all of it swirling together. But beneath it all, there was clarity. I didn't ruin anything, I said, my voice steady. I just stopped letting you use me. If anyone ruined this family, it was you, not me. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Finally, she whispered, can you just drop the charges? Please, Mason. I'll do anything. Just make it stop. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered her laughter the night of the reunion, the way she dismissed my drained account as if it were some harmless joke. No, I said, my voice firm. You made this mess. You live in it. And with that, I hung up. That night, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee, staring at the stars. The silence around me wasn't empty, it was full of resolve. Full of freedom. It's strange how silence can feel like the loudest sound in the world. After years of being surrounded by chaos, Sarah's guilt trips, Seth's smug indifference, my parents' passive-aggressive pleas, the absence of their voices was deafening at first. But as days turned into weeks, that silence transformed. It became calm, peaceful. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's problems on my shoulders. I started enjoying the little things again. Cooking dinner became more than just sustenance, it was an act of self-care. I'd blast my favorite albums from college, dancing around the kitchen while chopping vegetables or stirring soup. On weekends, I'd sit on the porch with a steaming mug of coffee, watching the sun rise over the horizon. There were no phone calls interrupting me, no frantic texts demanding money, no visits where I was treated less like a person and more like a resource. Just me, the morning breeze, and the quiet hum of life moving forward without drama. But it wasn't always easy. Some nights, loneliness crept in like an unwelcome shadow. I missed the idea of family, the warmth of shared laughter, the comfort of knowing you belong to something bigger than yourself. Yet I reminded myself that what I missed wasn't real. What I lost wasn't a loving family, it was the illusion of one. They never saw me as Mason, their son or brother. To them, I was just a bottomless well they could draw from whenever it suited them. Letting go of that fantasy hurt, but holding on to it would have destroyed me. One evening, as I sat on the porch flipping through an old photo album, someone called my name from the sidewalk below. Mason? Is that you? I looked up to see Jen, the same cousin who caught up with me outside during that fateful reunion months ago. She smiled warmly, her hands tucked into the pockets of her coat. Hey, I said, standing up. What brings you here? I heard about everything, she admitted, stepping closer. How are you holding up? Better, I replied honestly. It's quieter. She nodded, then added softly, you know, most people wouldn't have had the guts to walk away like you did. You're stronger than you think. Her words stayed with me long after we parted ways. For so long, I defined myself by what I gave to others. My job stability, my willingness to help, my ability to fix problems. But now, I was learning to define myself by who I was when no one needed anything from me. And for the first time, that felt enough. Months later, I ran into another familiar face, someone I hadn't seen since high school. We bumped into each other at a local cafe, and after exchanging pleasantries she asked cautiously, so, how are things with your family? I hesitated, then shrugged. They're still figuring it out. But honestly, I'm done trying to save them. That takes guts, she said earnestly. Most people stay stuck in those cycles forever. Good for you, Mason. Her praise caught me off guard, but it also reinforced what I'd been slowly realizing. Walking away wasn't selfish. It was necessary. By choosing myself, I wasn't abandoning my family, I was teaching them how to treat me. Now, sitting here on this porch with my coffee, I think about all the lessons I've learned. About boundaries. About love. About the difference between helping and enabling. I used to believe that saying yes meant I was strong, that sacrificing my own happiness for theirs made me noble. But now I understand that true strength lies in saying no, not because you don't care but because you do. Saying no is how you teach people to value you. If there's one thing I want others to take away from my story, it's this. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to walk away. And when you do, you don't lose a family, you find yourself. The road ahead isn't perfect. There will still be moments of doubt, flashes of guilt whispering in my ear. But I remind myself of the truth. That silence I once feared is actually freedom. Freedom from expectations. Freedom from resentment. Freedom to live a life that's truly mine. And so, I raise my coffee mug to the sunrise, to the journey I've taken, and to the person I've become. Not the responsible one, not the family bank. Just Mason.